In today's video, I'll tell you about the 3 great beaches we visited during our recent cruise on Icon of the Seas. We took a catamaran from St. Kitts to a secluded beach on the island of Nevis. And then the next day we visited Trunk Bay on the island of St. John, which has one of the best beaches we've ever been to in all of our travels. And then on Royal Caribbean's private island in the Bahamas, we had one of the best experiences of the entire cruise at the wonderful Coco Beach Club. During our recent 7-day cruise on Icon of the Seas, the ship took us to 3 different islands, and this video is going to be all about what we did in each of those places. I've already done a video all about the ship itself, where I pointed out a lot of things I loved about Icon of the Seas and a few things I didn't like. In case you haven't seen that video yet, I'm putting a link to it in the upper right corner of the screen. Our cruise began at the port of Miami, and this is a time-lapse video I recorded from the balcony of our cabin. Before Icon can head out to sea, we're waiting on 2 other cruise ships to go. There's a great cruise ship there, Norwegian Joy. I've been on 64 cruises now, including one in the Haven on Norwegian Joy in December of 2019. It's one of my favorite cruise ships. And there's MSC Seascape, not one of my favorites. I did a cruise on her sister ship MSC Seaside in 2018, and it was just inferior in so many ways to the cruises I've done with other lines. Europeans will like MSC just fine. It's totally tailored to European tastes, but Americans would be far better off cruising with lines like Royal Caribbean, Carnival, Norwegian, Princess, Celebrity, and Viking, which tailor their experiences for American tastes. As you can see, Icon of the Seas is underway now, heading out to open water from her berth at the best cruise ship terminal I've ever sailed from, Terminal A at the Port of Miami. Up ahead, you can see all the high-rises that have fantastic views of Miami Beach and the Port of Miami. Boy, I would love to live in one of those high-rise condos there. It would be a real kick to watch the cruise ships come and go. And switching to my other camera, this one in real time, not a time-lapse, this is the gorgeous view from our balcony on Icon of the Seas as we sail past Miami Beach. You can see some pretty long shadows there. It was about 6 p.m. on the last weekend of February 2024, and while you enjoy these cool views of Miami Beach, I want to just encourage you to share your thoughts with me about the things you see in this video today by leaving a comment here on YouTube. Let me know what you find interesting in this video, anything I should have left out, and any questions that come up as you watch this. These people seem to be enjoying themselves. They sure had a great view of our sail away from Miami and the sunset. How'd you like to be in one of those hot tubs right now? Those are in the adults-only area of the ship, which is called the Hideaway. That's also where you'll find this infinity pool with a great view of everything behind the ship. But for some reason, the water in the infinity pool wasn't heated and was actually quite cold, so no takers at this hour of the day. Now, the next 2 days of our cruise were sea days as we sailed south into the Caribbean, and we had some really nice weather as people enjoyed ship life for the 2 days at sea. This is a time-lapse video of our approach to St. Kitts, our first port of call, and that was a pilot boat that just came alongside to drop off a local pilot who would help us safely sail in and dock at St. Kitts. You can see we had another cruise ship ahead of us, and we had another one behind us too, a busy day at St. Kitts. And now we've made it to the most fun part of this video, and I would say my 3 favorite parts of this cruise, the 3 excursions that we had booked for the week. The first excursion involved sailing on a big catamaran, and we had about a 1-hour sail over to the neighboring island of Nevis. My wife and I are beach people. When we go on vacation, it's almost always to somewhere warm where we can spend time at a beach, enjoying a lot of time in the sun and in the warm ocean water. So the Caribbean is definitely our favorite vacation destination. But we also like the Mexican Riviera and Hawaii, too. Our catamaran just ran right up onto this beach on the island of Nevis, and this was a really nice beach. The water was very warm, so I spent a lot of time in the water. The sand was really nice and clean, not rocky. And people who were snorkeling found some nice shells on the bottom, not far from shore. Another nice thing about this excursion was that they served a hot lunch, barbecue chicken with rice and salad. And they had a little bar set up too, but there was no extra charge for any of this. It was all included in the cost of the excursion, which, by the way, was called the St. Kitts Catamaran Sail and Nevis Beach Getaway. This particular beach was completely undeveloped other than the picnic tables and that very basic bar and serving station I showed you. So it was just a nice, quiet afternoon at a nice little beach, and that's just the way I like it. Now, if you're not a beach person, don't worry. There were lots of other types of excursions available in St. Kitts, but we love the beach, and we also love boats of all kinds. So the time spent on the catamaran was just as fun for us as the time spent at the beach. As our catamaran brought us back to the marina in St. Kitts after our excursion to Nevis for the afternoon, we got some nice views of Icon of the Seas. And there was another cruise ship next to us, which you can see better from this angle. Look at how small it is next to Icon. And that actually was a Royal Caribbean ship originally called Splendor of the Seas. But Royal Caribbean sold it in 2016, and these days it's known as the Marella Discovery. Here's a time-lapse video of our sail away from St. Kitts. By this point in the day, the sun was pretty low in the sky, so the hideaway pool was all in shadows. Between that and people being tired out from excursions and the water in the pool not being heated, there wasn't a very big crowd in the pool for our sail away. The ship didn't actually have very far to go either. It's a pretty easy overnight sail to our next destination. On day 5 of our cruise, Icon of the Seas was in St. Thomas, and we were docked next to Celebrity Apex. Our shore excursion today was a really great one. We boarded a ferry boat, which offered your choice of indoor or outdoor seating for the ride over to the neighboring island of St. John. From the ferry, I got a kick out of seeing Norwegian Encore, another ship I had a really nice cruise on once before. Once we made it to St. John, we got aboard one of these shuttle buses for a short ride into Virgin Islands National Park. That's our destination down below, the beach at Trunk Bay. This really is a beautiful part of the world, very pristine, not developed or commercialized. Probably not that different from what the early explorers of the New World must have seen several hundred years ago. I think I mentioned earlier that this was the last week of February, and where I live in Washington State, February tends to be one of the coldest months of the year, so it was the perfect month for us to leave Washington behind and come to a warm place like this. My idea of paradise. You know, my wife and I lived in California for quite a long time, and there's a lot of beautiful beaches in California, but the ocean water there is about 50 degrees. Here in the Caribbean, believe it or not, the ocean water here is about 80 degrees, and that's a lot more fun to swim in than the water in California was. I stuck a GoPro on a stick and just let it record this beautiful scene here at the beach at Trunk Bay on St. John. I figured that on the coldest day next winter, I'd pull out this video and just enjoy remembering this perfect beach day. And while you're enjoying this extended footage, I want to suggest that if you're thinking about booking a cruise on Icon of the Seas, or on any ship with any cruise line, it would be a smart move to book it with my travel agent, Caitlin Gallagher. She specializes in cruise travel. She's extremely knowledgeable, very experienced, and I just find her so pleasant to deal with. So many times these days, when you call a company, you end up talking to someone in a call center overseas. But Caitlin works out of her home office in Florida. I've booked a lot of cruises through Caitlin, and I've referred a lot of people to her. She's the travel agent you want to answer your questions, get good advice from, and to make things easier for you. And her services cost you nothing extra. Her fees are paid for by the cruise lines. Caitlin Gallagher, not just a travel agent, but the owner of Ambrin Travel, a multi-million-dollar producing agency and one of the top travel agencies in the USA. On the ferry ride back to St. Thomas, we had this view of the back end of our ship. You can see the water slides up at the top, and below that, you can see people standing at the edge of the infinity pool. Here it is from the opposite perspective. This is a time-lapse of Icon's sail away from St. Thomas. It was the warmest day of the cruise, so we got a few more people in the hideaway pool for the sail away today. The hideaway pool is the only adults-only pool on Icon of the Seas, but it's a party pool with loud music playing most of the time. If that's not what you're looking for, and you're an affluent cruiser who can afford to pay more for a more elevated experience, let me suggest the way to have a nice, quiet, relaxing pool experience on Icon of the Seas, and that is to book a suite. Because suite guests have access to a special pool that those of us in steerage don't have access to. It doesn't get crowded, there's no loud music playing, and there are always plenty of loungers available for the suite guests. Day 6 of our cruise was another sea day as we headed north to the Bahamas, and the next day, the final full day of the cruise, just might have been the best day of all. We visited Royal Caribbean's private island, Coco Cay. Now, there are a lot of ways you can enjoy Coco Cay without spending any extra money at all. You can grab a lounger at the beach and enjoy a beach day at no additional charge. Coco Cay also has the largest freshwater swimming pool in the Caribbean, and you're welcome to grab a lounger there, either in the sun or under the shade of an umbrella, and that doesn't cost you anything extra. Of course, there are some optional things you can do that would cost you extra. Coco Cay has an amazing water park. So if your kids enjoyed the water park on the ship and want even more thrills on taller, longer water slides than what the ship has, and if you don't mind spending some extra money for it, the kids will have an amazing time at the water park on Coco Cay. That big free swimming pool I showed you earlier is great on a really hot summer day, but just be aware that the water is not heated. So in February, which is when we visited Coco Cay, there were some better options with heated pools if you're willing to pay extra for it. If you're looking for a party scene with loud music that Generation Z will love, the place to go for that is called Hideaway Beach. It's adults only, 18 years or older. There's a very nice beach with plenty of loungers, as well as 2 infinity pools with heated water. But if a party is not what you're looking for, and you want to spend the day at a quiet, relaxing beach, or in an infinity pool with heated water and a relaxing atmosphere, then the place to go for that is the Coco Beach Club. And that's where my wife and I spent the day. They have a very nice beach at the Coco Beach Club with plenty of loungers positioned right by the water. And notice all the umbrellas. The last thing you want to do is go home with a sunburn. Now, we were here in February, and it was fairly windy that day, and the ocean water was a little too chilly for my taste, so instead of spending time in the ocean water, I spent quite a bit of time in the delightfully warm infinity pool that overlooks the beach at the Coco Beach Club. I enjoyed this so much. It was a quiet, relaxing environment, which is exactly what I like on vacation, and everything about the Coco Beach Club seemed new and first class. Just as an example, in the bathrooms, there were no paper towels, only real cloth towels. And in the restaurant, where lunch was fully included with the price of admission, they served filet mignon. Like I said, the Coco Beach Club was totally first class. So even though it was a little windy that day and the ocean water was a little too cool, we ended up having a nearly perfect day at Coco Cay at the Coco Beach Club, our third really great beach excursion during our 7-day cruise on Icon of the Seas. And that's the kind of vacation that my wife and I really love to take. If you enjoyed this video, click the thumbs up button to let YouTube know that this is a good video that they should recommend to other people. Leave me a comment to let me know your thoughts about the video or any questions that it raised. And if this is the kind of video you like to watch, subscribe to my channel and click the little bell icon so that YouTube will let you know when I release my next video. I'm Jim Zim. Thanks for watching.